Hello, guys. Welcome back to Sanctified Hoodoo. I am Ro. I'm here for the second part two of our altar series. This one is enforcing dominion. Before I get started, I speak under divine law. This message is not mine, it is governed, sealed, and delivered only to those lawfully assigned. All right. So now that the altar has been cleansed, the bloodlines have been reversed, the mixture has been named and renounced. Now what? Okay? Now you govern. Now you govern. This is not about deliverance. This is about dominion. This is not about breaking chains. This is about establishing thrones. See, some of you have fought hard to come out of generational bondage, but no one told you that demons return to empty courts. They return. Okay? You've cast down, you've prayed through, you've rebuilt your altar, but now, if you don't occupy the territory you cleansed, it will be contested. Because the realm of rulership hates a vacancy. This is why. So in the second teaching scroll of altar law, I'm not teaching you how to get free. We've already did that in part one. I'm teaching you how to govern what's been given back. This is legal territory. This is spiritual jurisprudence. This is the dominion of Judah. This is not trending prophecy, but judicial inheritance. So if you're waiting on a confirmation to rise, baby, this is it, okay? The altar is clean. The scroll is active. So now we enforce it. What does that look like? Okay? So dominion is not moving in emotion. It's legal occupation. You don't enforce dominion because you feel strong. You enforce it because you have legal authority. You have the legal authority to be there. If you look at Genesis 1st chapter in the 28th verse, God said, have dominion. He was not making a suggestion. He was making a mandate. He was stating it was a mandate, right? Dominion is not about how confident you feel. It's not about having public affirmation. It's not about waiting for warfare to stop. Dominion means occupying the space you have cleansed, that you've rebuilt back. It's about governing the atmosphere around your altar and speaking lawfully to what you've been assigned. If you only exercise dominion when you feel anointed, you'll surrender your territory during emotional fog every time. Every time you'll surrender it just because you simply feel not as strong or you know what I mean when I say that, okay? So let's just keep going. So this is about, you don't enforce it because you feel strong. You enforce it, like I said, because you have the legal authority to do so, right? We just went over that. If you look in the Apocrypha, yes, I have an Apocrypha. I love it. And I can't never pronounce these words, so I'll pronounce it, then I'll spell it so you can refer back to it later. Sirach, Sirach, 10th chapter, 1st verse. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. So what I'm saying is dominion requires wisdom, not warfare. You must instruct your territory, right, that you govern, like a judge, not just survive it. You must instruct your territory. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have to instruct your territory. if you don't enforce, okay, if you don't, I gotta put it, let me run back. Dominion is not optional. It's your original assignment, okay? Referring back to Genesis 1 and 28, it says, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion." We were given dominion. In 2nd Esdras, Esdras, it's the Apocrypha, the 6th chapter, the 54th through 59 verses. "The world was made for our sakes, but we thy people, who thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, are given into their hands." Meaning, dominion isn't aggression, it's legal spiritual governance, right? You're not meant to survive attacks, you're meant to legislate spiritual order. So let's say you've cleansed your home and you've reversed old contracts, but now you decree this every morning. This is an example of having legislative spiritual order, governing properly. You get up every morning, you decree and you declare, "No spirit of chaos or delay shall trespass my space today. This land is under scroll protection. Every doorway belongs to Yah." You've stated exactly. You are governing your altar, your area appropriately, legally, okay? Um, the reason why so many altars go unanswered, let me just run this back a minute. Because God does not respond to emotion, he responds to covenant. I'll say it again. God isn't moved by our emotions, he's moved by our covenant. Meaning, the Most High God honors spiritual law and divine protocol. If there is no blood covering, if there is no spoken decree, and no ownership declared, then the altar has no standing in the courts of heaven. Okay? First off. So, the Most High he honors what is vowed and kept, not just what is felt. But if you're one of these people that cries out of desperation, but once you do that, you never consecrate, you never make an offer, and you never submit to divine order, then an altar with no sacrifice, no time, no discipline is not truly a covenant altar. That's what they call lip service. Crying out in desperation, reacting out of emotion, getting a reply out of emotion, and then nothing after that. Your altar's dead. Okay? You have to keep your altar alive. And when I say keep your altar alive, you have to be in regular prayer, fasting, declaration, praises, offerings, and even your oil, your anointing oil. God, like the Most High God, I've been making different types of oils for different types of anointings. Okay? When in the last video, the first altar series video, I spoke about 1 Kings 18th chapter and 30th verse there, where I said Elijah repaired the altar of the Lord before fire fell. The key word, the fire wouldn't come until the altar was rebuilt and order was established. A spiritual legality was established. God cannot act. And God is a God that he can do anything, but like I said previously, God reacts out of covenant. Once the altar is rebuilt back and dedicated, the blood of Yeshua is applied. There's things you have to do, which we've already talked about that in the first video. This is the second one. This is about acting in your dominion, acting in your purpose. After you have done all of this, and why it's so important to reclaim your territory and not leave it sitting there, okay? So, one of the reasons that God does not reply to all altars, God doesn't respond to every altar because it has just because it has candles or scriptures or praise. He doesn't respond because, like, my altar has oils and my altar has, water. My altar has his candle. That's not why God is going to reply. Okay? He responds to covenant, to legal order, and clean intention. So many altars are built emotionally but not legally. Others are built sincerely but are still spiritually contaminated. And you may say, well, how so? Well, let me break it down for you, okay? A sanctified altar must not be mixed with idolatry, necromancy, occult tokens, or unclean ancestral spirits. Even if you are sincere, if the foundation is defiled, the altar cannot hold fire. Psalm 66:18 says, if I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me. A lot of people are sitting at dead altars and don't realize it, and they're praying, and they feel like they're getting answers, but it's not God who's answering them. And that's because they're into mixture. A person, for example, prays to the Most High while also honoring orishas or other deities, or burning offerings to deities, that altar is mixed and heaven will remain silent. The Most High honors spiritual law and divine protocol. If there is no blood covenant or covering, no spoken decree, and no ownership declared, then the altar has no standing in the courts of heaven. And if it's mixed, you certainly don't have any in the courts of heaven. Okay? Consider this. Okay? Consider this when I say this. Okay? The moment another power is honored, invoked, or entertained at your altar, even your ancestors, the ones that did not die in righteousness, who were not witnesses with the Most High God, dominion is forfeited. You have forfeited your dominion. You cannot walk in clean rulership with contaminated reverence. If you don't believe me, refer to some scripture. Exodus 20th chapter 3-5 verses. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. Dominion is only enforceable when the altar is exclusive. You cannot pray to Yah and honor ancestor spirits without testing them. You can't mix saints like and orishas or divine mothers into an altar language. You can't use universalist terms like the divine when enforcing legal verdicts. Mixture muddies your verdicts and silences your rulership. The wisdom of Solomon, you'll find that in the Apocrypha, the 14th chapter and 27th verse. And King Solomon knows well, he learned the hard way. For the worshiping of idols is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. Okay? The presence of idols or unauthorized spirits voids altar dominion. You may still feel power, but it will lack divine legality. The presence or honoring of any other deity, you just void it out dominion at your altar. No other gods are allowed before him. And it's the beginning and end of all evil. Okay? Consider 1 Kings 12th chapter. I'm going to give you something to think about here. 1 Kings 12th chapter, 28-31 verses. Jeroboam, I can't pronounce it. I'll just call him Jeroboam. Made golden calves, placed one in Bethel and one in Dan, saying, Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. He then made priests of the lowest people who were not the Levites. So right there, you know the smoke's coming, because the result is God tore the kingdom from Jeroboam's line. And later in 1 Kings 13, a prophet rebukes his altar and splits in two as a sign of God's judgment. You cannot share your altar with other deities. And when I say your altar, I'm talking about yourself too, because you are an altar unto the Most High. So you can't have any other altar that has any other deity on it, or God or goddess. I don't care if it's a table upstairs and your other table's downstairs. That's what that means. You either or you don't. Okay? King Oz mixed worship on the temple altar. 2 Kings 16, 10 through 18 verses. Ahaz sees a pagan altar in Damascus, okay? Then sends a pattern of it back to Jerusalem to replicate it in the temple, of all places, y'all. Placing it next to the bronze altar of the Lord. He sees a pagan altar that he likes in Damascus. He sends it back to Jerusalem to replicate it in the temple, placing it next to the bronze altar of the Most High God. You know what happened? God stays silent against Ahaz. He received no prophetic word, and he died outside of divine favor. But his son Hezekiah has to later purge the temple. What he did is he created a stronghold for his son to have to deal with, a curse there, something that he had to go deal with and get it out because he didn't want to listen. Let's consider the sons of Eli. They defiled the altar. 1 Samuel 2, 12 and 17. Hophni and Phinehas, Eli's sons, treated the Lord's offering with contempt, taking what they wanted from sacrifices and committing sexual immorality. In verse 17, it says, the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord. Result, you know what happened to them too? Both were killed on the same day. God says, I will raise up faithful priests that shall do according to that which is in my heart. 1 Samuel 2 and 35. He struck them dead. And then at the Tower of Babel, an unauthorized portal to the divine, Genesis 11, 4 and 8, they said, oh, let us build a tower that reaches the heavens. They were trying to create an unlawful gateway to spiritual realms without the Most High's authority. Result, God confused their language, broke their agreement, and scattered them. And it was an attempt to force spiritual access without covenant, which is what these other altars do. This is what happens when we enter into pacts. Like, we have legal access to everything, but not everything is we're supposed to access. Okay? Manasseh and idol altars. If you read 2nd Esdras, Esdras 16, first chapter, 6 through 7 verses, it says, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? Her ornaments are taken away, of no value like unto a harlot. So this speaks to Judah's fall due to idol worship and spiritual prostitution. God considers any mixing of altars a form of spiritual harlotry. You cannot mix. You either serve or you don't. It doesn't matter how I feel about something. The word is clear. God don't share with lesser beings. He just don't, because he is up here. He is the Most High God. He is the ruler. The earth is his footstool. He created everything. He is the divine creator of us all. Even the things that turned on him, the fallen turned on him, he still created them. And a lot of people, including myself, were and are committing spiritual harlotry. But everybody has their own beliefs, and I'm not here for them. I'm here for the people that I'm supposed to reach, okay? So, when you don't have your altar and it's not stable, when you have an altar and it's not stable, and it's not a table of fellowship, it is a throne of judgment. Any mixture on the altar causes the withdrawal of divine governance. Every time, it must be clean. You cannot govern what's not clean. Okay? You cannot govern what's not clean. This is why you have to claim dominion over your altar. And a lot of times, people are having unoccupied and powerless altars because first, they don't address him. They don't entertain. When I say entertain, maybe entertain is not a good word, but commune with the Most High. You don't pray there. You don't work on your projects there with your oil or your teaching or whatever you're doing. You're not in communion with the Most High. You're not setting the precedent when you before you go to bed and when you get up in the morning. You're not setting the atmosphere. You're not governing your altar appropriately. So your altar has no power, or you haven't even enacted your altar after you've broke it down and got rid of everything. Well, you're building it back, but have you made in the last video, you have to refer to it. Have you done what you were supposed to do to reclaim it and begin building it back appropriately? Now, after you've built it back appropriately, now it's time for you to act in your dominion, to govern it appropriately. Okay? That's what this means. This is what I'm saying. You have to govern what you have responsibly. And you are responsible for what you have. Okay? So, it's about holding spiritual ground, guarding your altar's authority, executing altar law against intrusions, regressions, and delays, walking in legal rulership, not emotional survival. Okay? Many clean the altar, few defend it. So this is about transforming or transitioning from cleansed priest to governing ruler. Okay? You must build and guard simultaneously. Any unguarded altar will become a sieged altar. Dominion means no new agreements, no old soul ties, and no loose speech. How do you enforce rulership legally? Well, you're going to release daily altar decrees that align with your mandate or scroll. Keep unauthorized access off your land spiritually and literally. Govern your dreams. Don't let confusion sit on your gate, okay? And you change your space with legislative presence. Oil, sound, incense, scripture. That's what that means. If you get these signs, like you're waiting on a feeling to act, waiting on to feel something to act, or you're needing to feel something in order to know how to act in a situation is what I mean. You entertain dreams without decreeing over them. You let old cycles back into new timelines. You speak defeat over what you've already cleansed. That signs you've abandoned dominion. You've given up dominion. In Luke 11:24 and 26, when the unclean spirit is gone, it returns and finds the house swept and garnished, or well put together, or in order. Then takes 7 more wicked than itself in to trash it. So dominion must be enforced, or it will be challenged. You have to enforce it. So you consider seeing it as an ongoing legal act of governing the space, the altars, timelines, and territories that you've cleansed according to altar law, with no trespass, no regression, and no mixture. That's what it means to enforce dominion. That's exactly what it means. You have to be vigilant. Okay? Can't be messing around, mixture. I don't do mixture. And God doesn't like mixture. He is not wanting to share that, because to him it's a very affront to who he is. It's very disrespectful. So now that I get it, like I understand, you can't. This is given like lukewarm. When you think you can do both, you can sit on the fence and you don't have to choose. And like I said, the reason I started Sanctified Hoodoo is because first Most High God told me to, because he's calling a lot of hoodoo mixture. A lot of people are being called out of mixture, and he's calling them into Sanctified Hoodoo. All right, I'm not here for everybody. I'm only here for those that the Most High sent me to get, and they'll hear me. Okay? That might not be you, and that's quite all right. I'm not here from you. I'm only here for those that God mandated for me to be here for, to get this message out. Get out of the mixture. Tear down your dead altars is what they are. No matter how well intentioned, no matter how gullible you were, like I was just as gullible, you still have to take responsibility for unknowingly and knowingly creating that. How do I say? Thinking that you are serving the Most High when in fact your altar is mixed and God was never there in the first place. Okay? So, that's the last series. It was only 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. So this is part 2. And I'll be coming back with a new teaching in the next day or two. Until next time, Sanctified Hoodoo out. Peace.